Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and well, today I'm talking to you about Pestmo'qon from the Indigenous US based Ushangvagush, and this is coming off of Realm and Ritual. And on this second full length from Ushangvagush, this project gives us more of this raw, but quite dense and honestly rather complex black metal. It has so many layers and takes many unexpected directions. It's vicious, but also at times it can be equally euphoric. Here, this album takes an interesting approach. It's really one track split into two parts, 45 minutes of pretty much uninterrupted black metal experimentation. And I think here that choice, that approach really paid off, because I do feel this record engages me in a way that might have been lost if it was instead split up into more shorter cuts. At times, this record is mysterious, even majestic, but also there are plenty of times and room for it to be grueling and sinister. And I love how multifaceted it is. It makes for a very complete experience. Part 1 starts as just controlled, complete chaos. Sawing guitars, cursed screeches, aggressive brass drumming to really start and introduce the mood of the record. It starts with this breakneck pace, but doing that allows for a lot of rich detail to kind of seep in. For example, these moving melodic lines that are in the background of the earlier parts of this track. And what this creates is a richly emotional work. It's vicious, it's menacing up front, but for those that are willing and wanting to kind of confront that, it can reveal a lot of beauty and catharsis in its various crevices. And yes, this record is raw, it's very raw, and being so raw in its density just makes these layers of noise that much more grating and impenetrable. But at least for me, somehow that doesn't really obscure any of the details, just makes it so that it adds even more of this deliciously harsh texture. The percussion at times has this calculated ugliness, this nasty abrasiveness coming off of the snare, but it really works with the blistering, maniacal atmosphere around it. But there are also moments of serenity too, I must add, even as sometimes when the raging percussion carries on, more layers around it will become more melodic, more graceful. It morphs and it gradually grows. It's really cool seeing the music here evolve slowly over time. It's actually a really marvelous process to observe. But there are also plenty of times where we are led into these icy, traditional black metal sounds for good measure, and it's this subtle diversity of the record that makes it so compelling to me. The way it gradually moves from one avenue to the next, to the next, to the next. And actually, Ushangvagush finds a way to lead us into this graceful, majestic, calming even ambient passage with these clean, evocative guitars and fluttering synth. It's almost post-rock inspired a bit. And it's insanely gorgeous, even as the drums and the scratchy howls begin to fade back in. And as part 2 kicks off, we're drawn even further into that ambient direction with these haunting strings, these majestic field recordings, these ghostly feedback-drenched synths and some distorted vocal samples, the music begins to take on more of this spacey, ritualistic nature, and it's completely hypnotic for me. But it slowly becomes more coherent, more gentle, more, I would say, spiritual. This is a dark album for sure, but there are these swaths of like this endearing fixation on the atmosphere around it that kind of amplifies the darkness. Things do mix in with some discordance, however. Really, there's this cool part where these acoustic plucked strings are kind of washed out with this buzz and hum. In fact, the track seems to oscillate seamlessly from parts that are rather pretty to parts that are absolutely terrorizing and harrowing, and it does both really, really well. When the vocals do come in, Ushangvagush really kind of falls into character with these skyward pleas. It sounds very pained, but also really affecting. Well done in that department. But somehow, out of this long detour into this ambient territory, we find ourselves towards the second part of this track of this other part. It's a completely uplifting and triumphant atmospheric black metal. Yes, it lands that transition. It's so good, and a lot of that is done with this melodic work that this project taps into that is just rather very spectacular. And as things move on to that conclusion of the album, that monstrous energy, that complete black metal fury, that chaos from the beginning is back at full steam, just goes full circle. The cyclical nature of this record is very satisfying. I really enjoyed this approach of one long composition here. I think it really worked. It allows the music here to really unfurl on you. This album, with that, showcases a lot of diversity, from melodicism to atmosphere to just pure ferocity. This album feels like a planned journey, really takes you from beginning to end and lets you digest everything in between from your starting point to your final destination. Black metal fans, especially those who like the more ambient black metal or just that raw, gritty black metal production style, definitely think you will love this one. So put it on your radar for sure. And hey, that kind of concludes my thoughts here. If you enjoy my work, hit the like button. It'd mean the world to me if you'd consider subscribing. I have a Twitter you can follow. Link to that is in the bio of this YouTube channel. Post a lot of recommendations here. Very active on Twitter. Leave a comment. I love getting to engage with those. Hey, I have a Patreon now that you can support. No pressure, but it does help keep this more sustainable. I put a lot of work into this channel. But once again, no pressure to give. Hey, you right there, keep it metal. My name is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, and I am signing off.